Hey everyone, it's Dragon Rider, and I am so excited to go through this huge patch note blog. Oh my gosh, this is a huge patch that we have coming for Hearthstone. But before I do, if you didn't see already in my community tab, I did make the announcement, and it was officially announced in this Masters Tour blog post that I will actually be joining the casting crew this coming weekend, the 19th and 20th, to cast the upcoming Masters Tour. I did get to cast for a couple of days back in 2021. Very excited to be invited back, so I hope that y'all come and check that out. And now let's get into this blog post, because this is a huge patch that is coming, patch 27.2, and wow, there is a lot. I am not going to go in depth into most of this. Most of it is just going to be kind of a brief overview, skimming, and for the standard balance updates, I will be doing a little bit more in depth on my thoughts on those card changes. But if you want to skip some of it or follow along either way, everything will be tagged and timestamped as well. So the first big thing, of course, is the new Battleground season. That is Battleground Season 5. And of course, they always like to bring something new to the Battleground seasons. We've had things like buddies, we've had quests, and Season 5 will be Anomalies. That is going to start on August 22nd when the patch releases. That is next Tuesday. Anomalies are the big thing. And what anomalies are is they are going to be presented at the very beginning of each lobby. It will be the same anomaly for all 8 players or 7 players in a lobby, regardless. And everybody, that's just how it will be. Almost like as if saying beasts are in this lobby or beasts are not in this lobby. It will just be, here's this specific anomaly for this game. That is how it is. All right, but they have a ton of different anomalies. They are all very different, a ton of different variations. And the big thing with this as well is that there is an initial pool of anomalies, and then each week throughout the season, they will add more anomalies. They are also kind of like the quests. They will vary in their offer rates based on like how strong, some of them might be really strong or powerful effects that you don't see very often, and some anomalies you might see more often than others. So there is the whole list here. Some of the ones that I think are pretty neat are things like Tavern Tier 7 existing. And yes, there's Tavern Tier 7 minions. The only time you'll be able to get or discover into or anything like that Tavern Tier 7 minions are when this specific anomaly is active in your game. But that's pretty cool. And they have this one, bringing the buddies, bringing buddies back. Or if you really like quests, there's one where everybody is sired to Nathrius. Everybody in the lobby is sired to Nathrius. So everybody will get a quest. I also love the oops all something. Oops all pirates. Oops all beasts. The oops all something has been around in the community as kind of like a meme and just a reference for a very long time. So it's really kind of cool to see them bring that in as like an actual mechanic or something that's in the game. So that is super fun to me. I think that's really cool. But yeah, you'll start seeing these anomalies next week when Season 5 starts on August 22nd. So be aware that those will pop up before you get your hero choice. And so you'll see that, and then you'll get to make your hero choice. There is a new hero and hero updates. And then, of course, you can't have a patch without new minions. There's a ton of new minions. Personally, I love this Oozling Gladiator. Yeah, he is the absolute best. I love this artwork. He's amazing. But a ton of new minions. I believe 30-something new minions. So you can see all of those here. I don't typically do a lot of Battlegrounds focused content, but if you would like me to do more of a deep dive into these and kind of talk about my thoughts on these, well, let me know in the comments below if you want me to do something like that, and I certainly can. The minion pool updates, they're also removing a bunch of minions, and they are updating some. There's also 11 minions returning, so huge impact there. Definitely want to take a look at what's being removed and what's coming back, and checking out the new minions as well. That's a huge change. Again, more changes here to minions. Armor levels, of course, they have all of the heroes here. And then with the new season is, of course, the new Battlegrounds track. There will be a blog post that was already, it already came out, but that will be up for reference if you did want to look a little bit more at that. Now, moving away from Battlegrounds, the next thing we have here is a completely new special set. Wow. All right, so this is a new type of expansion. It says, yeah, new type of expansion, but this will be direct to wild. That's right. Now, no standard. It's completely skipping standard. It's only going to be wild cards, and very much like we have seen in some other card games, especially physical card games do this. They are doing reprints mixed with new cards. And this is pretty interesting here, but yeah, 147 cards coming to wild, and it launches August 31st. There's going to be a specific blog post for that on August 22nd, next Tuesday, when the patch actually launches as well, for more information on that. But this is pretty cool. I know a lot of players have been definitely very interested in doing this, or seeing something like this in Hearthstone, especially if they come from other card games, and just to help like spice up wild and change things up. Now, wild cards are also used in some tavern brawls. Sometimes they have, wild tavern brawls where you can use cards from any point. And even sometimes in these new twist formats, we're going to have sets that aren't in standard, that are in wild. So these cards will definitely have an impact in those formats as well. Now, it doesn't specify here. Maybe we'll get more information on that in the blog post on August 22nd, but it doesn't say how often these will be coming, but because it does say a new type of Hearthstone expansion, I kind of read that as this will not be the only one. I'd imagine there's going to be more of these in the future, but again, I don't know how often these will come out, so that'll be interesting to see if they do it maybe only like once a year, if they do 3 of these a year, like they do regular, like standard expansions. I don't know, that seems like it might be a little much. But we'll see how often they end up doing these, but definitely very interesting. And, with that, the 113 wild cards that are getting buffed, you can see the whole breakdown here as well. So you can get a reference on what cards are changing for all of the different classes. And there's also going to be an exclusive interview with Matt London and Chad Nervig via the State of Wild podcast, so you can get the link there to check that out. Now moving into Twist, that is, yes, coming back on September 1st. We already knew that this was coming back, but it does make sense that they didn't announce anything really with it yet until this blog post, because it is coming out one day after the Caverns of Time Wild expansion. So definitely they are including that, and they are kind of having this as like an older style format. A lot of these original kind of sets and expansions, along with the Caverns of Time new expansion. And for this first official Twist format, they will not have Demon Hunter or Death Knight, because in these older sets, Death Knight and Demon Hunter did not exist. So that makes a lot of sense. They're not going to have that. Very nostalgic type of format, I think. So will be very interesting to see that. Now moving into our standard balance changes. There are both some nerfs and some buffs. So let's look at these. Hollow Hound going from a 3/6 to a 3/4, staying the same mana cost. This I actually think is a pretty decent change. I think that this kind of alleviates some of the problems that I have seen reflected from some players. If you change the mana cost up to 7, that feels really punishing, and 3/6 of stats, like, I don't know, you definitely still would have to do something with those. If you change it to 5 and try to change it to just lower stats, that doesn't feel great either, because then you get this rushing heal removal a turn earlier. So I actually kind of like this, just dropping it a couple of health. It's definitely not going to survive in as many cases as it is currently, which is probably honestly fine. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good change. Costumed Singer going from 2 attack to 1 attack. Sure, I think this is more significant in Hunter. It's not really, Costume Singer isn't really being played in Mage, so it definitely is more in Hunter right now. I mean, it's fine, makes sense. It's a pretty strong 1-drop, so yeah, going to a 1/1 and then drawing a secret at the end of the turn. Sure. Bioluminescence for Shaman here, going up to 4 mana from 3 mana. Would have kind of been interested to see what would have happened if they just kept it at 3 mana, but removed the nature spell school tag off of it. I think that was a really interesting suggestion that I have seen from some players, and it means that you wouldn't be able to discover additional bioluminescence. It means that playing bioluminescence wouldn't discount like Crash of Thunder. So that definitely could have been an interesting change, but I think making it just cost more. I mean, you'll still probably be able to play this for 2, maybe 3 mana after this change, you know, with some of those other discounts that are being played in Nature Shaman right now. That seems okay. It's still a nature spell to be able to discount things like Crash of Thunder, so you still have those synergies. So I think it just slows down a little bit of that huge OTK potential without removing it completely. So I think this is a pretty decent change. Then we have Thaddeus. It's getting changed pretty significantly. This is a pretty heavy nerf, I feel like. Before, your odd cost cards would cost 1, and then on the next turn, your even cost cards would cost 1. Now they're changing it to they just cost 4 less. So your odd cost will cost 4 less, then the next turn your even cards will cost 4 less. That is a huge, huge difference from costing 1 to costing 4 less for some cards. Of course, if it's a card that was, 4 or 5, maybe it's not really significant. Or it's even beneficial. If your card was 4 and now it's 4 less, it's going to cost 0. So that seems pretty impactful. But I think for a lot of the huge swing turns, then this really will have a huge impact. I think decks like Druid might not really want to run this because I think a lot of the potential big swings that they were looking for with things like Thaddeus and some of these slower things were to be able to get Thaddeus down and then play Jailer and some other huge minions behind it, whereas you really won't be able to do that now unless the Thaddeus lives a turn. It's not very likely. I think this more so impacts Warlock, where it probably still could see some play because of things like Slime, right? Being able to play Slime, get this undead out of your hand, and then kill off the slime and get copies of Thaddeus. Sure. I think there definitely still is potential there. Now getting into the buffs, we have Down with the Ship. This is also a pretty significant change for how this card works. Before, it would deal 3 to a minion, and then if the minion died, you would put 2 plagues into your opponent's deck. Now it is just deal 3 damage and shuffle 2 plagues. There's no restriction, there's no requirement you have to meet to get those 2 plagues, and you can send this damage wherever you want. It's not just to a minion, you can send this damage face if you want. So that altogether feels like a huge, huge change, and I think is going to be very beneficial for Plague Death Knight. I don't know necessarily if that is enough to really make the plagues very consistent or maybe like a top tier deck, but it is a very significant change in its own, and this card definitely much, much better. Mythical Terror going up just 1 attack, maybe okay. I guess if big demon hunter becomes a thing, that 1 extra attack could certainly help. I don't really feel like that's that much of a thing, but all right, we'll take it, I guess. The next change, another fairly small change here, the Frost Lotus Seedling and the Blossom, the kind of second half of that, if it blossoms and has been in your hand for 3 turns. getting a slight update to the armor that you gain. You're still going to draw the same amount of cards, but you get a little bit of an armor increase. Sure, that seems fine. The Disciple of Amethyst for Paladin, going from a 6 mana 4/6 to a 5 mana 4/5. Sure, being able to play this a turn earlier seems like it could be good. I am still not completely sold. I'm really not a believer in these earthen bodies and this earthen kind of package. Still think it lacks a little bit of support and stability there to actually make it like a really strong mechanic or concept for Paladin. But being able to play this body and get 2 bodies plus, potentially additional stats on those turn earlier seems good. Also going up 1 turn is Tear, going from 7 mana to 6 mana. Still going to resurrect your Paladin minions, but I think that this one has much more of an impact being at 6 mana than the other card does, going from 6 to 5. Having this at 6 mana instead of 7 means that it's not also competing in the same mana slot as a lot of other significant Paladin legendaries, like Countess, like the Colossal, like Anachronos. There's just a ton that are 7 mana, so I think this going to 6 mana is pretty significant. The Astral Automaton, going from a 1/1 to a 1/2. Sure, I think that there is potential for this Astral Priest deck. It does have a decent amount of ways to recreate this astral minion, to make copies of it, things like that, to be able to actually utilize this. But the 2 health instead of 1, it's fine. I don't think it's going to be enough to all of a sudden make this some nutty, powerful kind of combination or deck. So seems okay. The Felstring Harp change. Now this is going from 2 mana to 1 mana, and I think will allow you to fit in this harp on various turns. Seems pretty impactful there, honestly. Being able to even do this on turn 3, play this, and then do a hero power or something like that seems pretty good. And especially I think with the change that we're seeing to Thaddeus, if, Warlock players want to try some other variations, they play this and maybe some of like the fatigue and curse stuff or something like that instead of the kind of big Warlock packages, the Thaddeus Warlock stuff. I think that this definitely can help that become a little bit better as well. And then we actually have 4 changes for Warrior. We have Blade Storm going from 3 mana to 2 mana, so slightly cheaper for some removal. The Stone Skin Armor going from a 3 mana 3/4 to a 2 mana 2/2. The attack and health, whatever, it's like fine. But I think the big part of this card is the 2 mana. It's just a little bit easier to kind of fit in to actually use it as a battle cry effect, because you don't want to spend as much when you're trying to change your armor for a turn and then play something to draw some cards. But as a 2 mana 2/2, I think that this is a pretty great card. Then we have the Craftsman Hammer. Pretty big change here as well, honestly. This used to be after your hero attacks and kills a minion, you'd gain 4 armor. But now it's just whenever your hero attacks, gain 4 armor. That is a big, big difference, because this could mean maybe you're still attacking into a minion, but you don't have to kill the minion in order to get the armor. Or you could attack face and still get the armor as well. So very impactful, huge change there for, honestly, just Control Warrior, or even if you're playing Odin and trying to get a bunch of extra armor. Seems really good either way. It's a little weird to try to think of this after you've played Odin, right? Because Odin will give you attack after you've gained armor. So you're getting the attack after you've gained the armor after attacking with this. So that kind of seems weird, but okay. And the last warrior card is Trial by Fire. This is going from 7 mana down to 6 mana. Seems pretty decent. It did feel pretty slow at 7 mana. Yes, it's a lot of stats. They have rush and that kind of builds upon each other. But 7 mana was definitely pretty clunky and a little slow. So 6 mana for this, definitely going to be helpful. I don't know if this is enough to really kind of bring warrior up, but maybe this, in addition to the other warrior changes, could help see the more play for this card, or styles of warrior in general, I guess. But I think some of the other changes for me are a bit more impactful for warrior and will probably help warrior a lot more than this change, but this one seems pretty decent. Now getting into some in-game events and special things going on. For the part of the blog here, we have the next in-game event, Battle of Encourage, is going to be starting on September 5th, and it will run from September 5th to September 19th. So we do already currently have something going in-game right now until the 22nd, and then there'll be a little downtime, and then this event, you'll get what looks to be like some older packs. This is really kind of to highlight the wild and the kind of twist format and some of this other stuff. So the prizings, these cards and the packs that you get will be from older sets. So you can get one Grand Tournament pack, one Goblins vs. Gnomes pack, one Mean Streets of Gadgetzan pack, one Whispers of Old Gods, two Caverns of Time packs, and then you can get some signature Northshire Cleric and two signature Deathlord rare cards. So definitely kind of focused more on the wild stuff if you're interested in that. And then also in that same line of thinking, to highlight kind of wild, they also are going to be releasing, starting September 6th, the Heroic Tavern Brawl. So we've had the Heroic Brawliseums for standard, but we have seen a wild one before, but it's been a little while. So now bringing this wild Heroic Brawl back. So that is coming back there. And of course, this is based on kind of like Arena, going up to 12 wins and all those huge rewards there. So I am not really a wild player myself. I'll probably not want to spend gold on this. I love playing the standard Heroic Brawliseum, and I will completely dump all of my gold into that. I don't care if I win anything. I just love playing that because I feel like it's the closest we have to like in-game tournaments. But I probably myself won't do this wild one just because I'm not really a wild player. So I will definitely be interested to check out wild creators playing this when it launches on September 6th and see how they do with it. But that is returning. So if you are interested in wild, there's definitely a ton of stuff coming for wild. And ultimately, even like this in-game event to get some packs from some of those older sets. Again, you can use those in some of the Tavern Brawls, or you can use those in some of those twist formats. So if that's something that you want to do, I mean, there is potential for getting something out of those rewards as well. And then, of course, they have some Duels updates and a bunch of different bug fixes. But huge patch overall. Again, this is launching on Tuesday, August 22nd, all of these things. But what are you most excited for in this patch? Is there something that you're looking forward to? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking this out, and I'll see you in the next one.